Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. And that's my message today, that Noah found favor, and you will too in God's time. There's a time of God's favor. And if you look at our text today, what Paul just read, Genesis 6, says at that time the earth was filled with wickedness, and it increased and it increased to the point where God said, this is the time. He wasn't going to deal with it anymore. His patience was exhausted. The time had come when God was going to send a flood, and it would wash away all that wickedness and essentially create a new earth. But in that time, Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. And we know that God is wise and that He does things in an orderly manner. So therefore, He spoke to Noah beforehand, telling him to build this ark. And He gave him that time to build the ark. And also, during that time, Noah preached to warn people. 2 Peter 5 calls Noah a preacher of righteousness. So anyone could have been on the ark. God didn't want anyone to die in his sins and go to hell, so He sent out Noah as a prophet to warn people and invite them in. Anybody who wanted to save could come. Come as you are. God will meet you at the point of your need if you want it. If you want it. And if not, it actually breaks God's heart. He's sad about that. Makes Him sad, but He'll respect your choice. And you know, myself, I'm not an arm twister. I'd like people to be saved, everyone. But I don't try to go out there and coerce people, because that's not Christian. That's what cults do. Cults try to force people into something. We respect a person's choice. We all have, if we're Christians, we're saved, we all have good news to share. And we'd like to tell other people if they want to hear it. And if not, that's their choice. We respect that choice. But, I mean, if I'm going to preach, it's with a sense of urgency, because we don't have forever. Personally, I believe we have a short time. Short time to get this work done if it's going to get done. And there is a time of God's favor. In Noah's day, there was a specific time when it was going to start raining. Have you ever been outside and you think you feel a drip? Oh, was that a raindrop? Is it my imagination? Did something fall off a tree? And then your friend might be, yep, it's raining, and then sprinkles a little bit more. Okay, it's definitely raining. Well, in Noah's day, there was an appointed time for that first raindrop, and God knew the day, but it wasn't on any man's calendar. So Noah, he just had to wait, building the ark, like God said, trying to share the good news. You can be saved, like God said, doing His work. And Noah just had to wait until God told him it's time to go into the ark. And the door to that ark was open for a long time. I think it could have been a century or around there. And anyone that wanted to come in could come, until the moment that God closed the door. So I'd like to look carefully, because this is an important point, in Genesis 7, verse 16. Now I'm reading from the ESV today, because just that's the translation we have in the pews. I'm just going with it. But Genesis 7:16. And those that entered, male and female of all flesh, went in as God commanded him. And the Lord shut him in. The Lord did it. was the very hand of God that closed the door. And in that moment, anyone in the ark was saved. Completely safe. God closes the door. There's no man or demon or anything going to open it if God wants it closed. So you're in the ark. God himself closed the door. You're safe. But at the same time, anybody outside was too late. And as it was, only 8 people were saved. Noah and his immediate family, 8 people. And God wanted thousands upon thousands of people to be in there, but they made their choice, and in the end, only 8 found favor. And I see many empty pews in our sanctuary today. It's a lot of room. We open the doors, we let everyone come in. Public's welcome. You know, if they let me in here, basically anybody should be allowed. And presently, there's still time to accept Christ. I mean, coming to church is great, but what you really want to do is find God himself. And he wants to have a relationship with you, and you can come. But how much more time do we have? I'm not sure. The way it's going, might not be long now. So we see that you and I live in a day like Noah's. And I find it really interesting, a lot of the things that Jesus said concerning the end of the world and the times leading up to the end. In Luke 17, verse 26, Jesus said, "Just as it was in the day of Noah, so will it be in the days of the Son of Man. They were eating and drinking and marrying and be given in marriage until the day when Noah entered the ark and the flood came and destroyed them all. Likewise, just as it was in the days of Lot, they were eating and drinking, buying and selling, planting and building. But on the day when Lot went out of Sodom, fire and sulfur rained down from heaven and destroyed them all. So will it be on the day when the Son of Man is revealed." So, there's nothing wrong with eating and drinking or buying and selling or getting married or any of that. It's just when people idolize these things and forget God. Just like today we see a lot of people, they actually worship money or they worship power. And Jesus points out that the days were evil. In Noah's day, men thought about evil, doing evil continually. And in Lot's time in Sodom, men devoted themselves to wickedness. And during these dark seasons on the earth, the saints suffered at times. I mean, in America today, we see fellow Christians, family, friends, loved ones, many of them going through hardships or trials, or there's different sicknesses, and we can wonder why. But the Lord knows what he's doing. And actually, others might think this is a dark time, but this is your time of favor in the Lord's eyes. For example, in 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 5, "If he did not spare the ancient world, but preserved Noah, a herald of righteousness with 7 others, when he brought a flood upon the world of the ungodly, if by turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah to ashes, he condemned them to extinction, making them an example of what's going to happen to the ungodly, and if he rescued righteous Lot, greatly distressed by the sensual conduct of the wicked. For as that righteous man lived among them day by day, he was tormenting his righteous soul over the lawless deeds that he saw and heard. Then the Lord knows how to rescue the godly from trials and to keep the unrighteous under punishment until a day of judgment." So God knows what he's doing. and the world as we know it will end. And that is a good thing for the saints. It means that Jesus comes back and makes everything right. It's not going to be any injustice. There won't be any hate crimes. There won't be any people getting sick anymore. Jesus is coming back to make everything right. It's good for the saints. I mean, what could be better? But for the unsaved, anyone still unsaved, be a bad day for them, which it's a choice they made. We tried to witness, we tried to evangelize. And while we were trying to reach them, if they wanted it, they could have it. And if not, God's not going to let one person ruin it for all of humanity. There's a change coming. Which side do you want to be on? Where do you want to be? But even today, I mean, we're talking about the new world to come, but even today, you have favor. So again, we have to look close at the text. I mean, Genesis 6, starting in verse 5. Actually, I'll skip down to verse 7. Genesis 6, 7. So the Lord said, I'll blot out man whom I've created from the face of the land, men and animals and creeping things, both birds of the heavens, for I'm sorry that I've made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. And notice, this is before the flood. God is saying the flood will come. There's an appointed time for that. But even before the flood came, Noah already had favor. And that meant that he had a place on that ark. I mean, today, going to go for a ride on a plane, we get a ticket. Okay, you got the ticket, you got your spot. I mean, if they keep their word, they're not God, so they're not completely honest or trustworthy. They might swap it around. And Noah didn't get a ticket, paper ticket for the ark. He got God's promise, which is true. And today, we have the same thing, because likewise, as Jesus said, the world as we know it is going to be destroyed, replaced by a new earth. But we have favor, we have a promise. And actually, our names are written in heaven. If you believe in Jesus Christ, that means your name is written in His book in heaven. And in a sense, it doesn't matter what happens down here, you will be saved. I mean, what's the worst that anyone could do to you or me or any of the saints? I suppose murder. Well, what's that mean? That you get to be with Christ sooner? Is that what they're threatening you with? Heaven? In the light of eternity, I think it's better. So we have God's favor even now. And I believe that this can help us with these trying times. This is relevant. I mean, long before I rededicated my life to Christ, because, I was saved maybe around age 13, I think it was. Then I took a detour that I don't recommend. And I'd read some of the scriptures. But even though might have been a sorry excuse for a Christian, God still was giving me favor. I believed in God, I just wasn't acting the way I should. And I could see it and I didn't understand why things just seemed to turn out better. There was some sort of grace I was getting. It was people, but it was more than that. I didn't understand until I studied the scriptures about these things, and there's the favor of God that rests on all the saints. And saint means that you've accepted Christ as your Lord, and He sets you apart, and you have His favor. But I believe it helps us because we pray, and of course we want the suffering or whatever bad thing to go away. And God doesn't always do that. Sometimes he leaves us here in the midst of it, like Noah. Noah, when he was building the ark, people around him were wicked. And it actually says that Lot in the middle of Sodom, and Lot was a backslider too, if you look carefully, but Lot was a believer. And it says it actually vexed his soul, a conversation of the wicked, their sensual ways. It was tough for him. And God didn't take all that away immediately. He gave the old-time saints favor. He gave them a ministry to do, just like Noah was that herald of righteousness. Well, we should be witnessing for Christ and leading people in and helping people. And Christians can even find their purpose here. Yeah, the world's messed up. God's showing us a penalty for sin. He'll take that all away, just not right now. And I think one of the psalmists wrote about this, talking about Psalm 102, verse 8. All the day my enemies taunt me. Those who deride me use my name for a curse. I eat ashes like bread and mingle tears with my drink. Because of your indignation and anger, for you have taken me up and thrown me down. My days are like an evening shadow. I wither away like grass. Seems like he's having a worse day than me sometimes. That's really bad. And verse 12, but you, O Lord, are enthroned forever. You are remembered throughout all generations. For you will arise and have pity on Zion. It is the time to favor her. The appointed time has come. And likewise, I believe that this is your day. The appointed time has come. If you believe in God and Jesus Christ, whom he has sent, then you are favored in the Lord's eyes. But what is favor? Like I said earlier, been reading from the ESV today. So the ESV for Genesis 6:8 says, Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. But the King James reads, Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. So which one is right? Did Noah find favor or did he find grace? So I looked at a number of Bible translations and most say favor, but a lot of them say grace, which is right. And I believe actually he found both. So sometimes, if you want the fuller sense of meaning, you have to dig a little deeper. So I looked at the Hebrew word in Brown Driver Briggs lexicon. The word is hain. At least that's my approximation. I believe there's supposed to be a stronger H, which I can't do. I don't want to embarrass myself. And just as an aside, I had a good friend from Syria. He moved to the West Coast, but he immigrated from Syria and made good friends with him. His name was Ahmed. Not really, but that's the closest I could say. It's not Ahmed like a CH. It's not an H. I just said Ahmed. And he called me, he tried to say Doug, but it sounded like Duke to me. Wasn't that John Wayne's nickname, the Duke? So I kind of took it as a compliment. And I don't think he liked Ahmed. He kept trying to, and I'd try to say and he'd laugh at me and I'd give up. But anyway, we're doing the best we can. So there's a stronger H here, but it's the word hain. And it can mean favor or acceptance in the eyes of God or man. But then there's another definition. Favor, grace, or elegance of form and appearance of a woman. And it just struck me. I mean, I just noticed this the other day, but in Noah's time, there were the Nephilim, were sons of God, I believe that's demons, looked and saw, they thought that the daughters of men were fair. And there was all that wickedness. But then Noah found favor or grace in the eyes of the Lord. And one definition of the word hain, favor, grace, or elegance of the form and appearance of a woman. So you might think about, like long ago, back when movies were different maybe than they are today. You might think of an actress, famous actress, or you might be thinking of a queen on a formal occasion, maybe in opulent robes and crown jewels. Or you might picture a beautiful bride on a wedding day. But that's what the word hain can be used to express, that kind of elegance and graceful beauty of a woman. And this is how God thinks of you, how He sees you. You've found favor in His eyes. And this is how it's relevant. It means that any problem that you're facing right now, you're going to beat it because God's got your back. He's been watching over you and protecting you. And He's crazy in love with you. I mean, that beautiful bride on her wedding day, that's an illustration. God's love for you is actually a lot greater than that, but He's just trying to give us these tools to understand, because God's not even of this world. He's so high and above this world, much higher than anything we know or used to. He's trying to help us understand the favor that He's given us, and it means no matter what happens, you're going to be okay. Nothing's going to happen today or tomorrow, ever, that God can't handle. And yes, sometimes He allows things that we think are bad. We call them bad. We don't like them. And God doesn't do those things to be mean. He's trying to wake up the wicked and warn the lost, and at the same time, bless the saints. I probably watch too much of the TV news. Why do I even turn it on at all? But on television news, they say we're going through some hard times in America and around the world. And there seems to be no end to the bad news they broadcast. I mean, where do they get it all? I mean, I know what it's going to be for. Sometimes it's good stuff, but, I was wondering if instead of calling it the TV news, should they call it like the 6 o'clock bad news? Just, no. And then I wonder, well, how much of this junk did humanity bring on itself? Is it 90% or 99% or I don't know. But sometimes I think God allows consequences to come. He's warning the lost. But here's what they don't tell you on the 6 o'clock bad news. As at these same times, just like in the time of Noah, the time of Sodom, it's a time of favor for the saints. God is using all this to bless you, and I've seen it. I don't go into people's lives here and give examples and embarrass people, but it's a time of opportunity. I mean, Noah was looking forward to a better time. The earth was going to be clean. It was going to be washed. It was going to be a new earth. And when the flood came, Noah was above it all, if you think about it, because he was in the ark. I mean, it was made out of wood. It's a boat, so it floats, right? So when the water came through, yeah, it was a bad day for everyone that decided not to be on the ark. But for Noah and his family, the waters actually lifted them up and they were above it all. And yeah, there was like mighty storm winds and rain and a lot of bad things. They were sealed up in the ark, sealed by the hand of God, didn't affect them at all. And then in the course of time, the waters abated and Noah came out. It was a new earth. It was clean, purified, refreshed, regenerated. And Noah had a new life. Did a fresh start. Okay? And that's the history that's been passed down to us, the history of the ancient earth. But it serves for us today as an illustration. But it's more than that. It's relevant to daily life. It means that God has something much better in store for you. If you believe in God and Jesus Christ, whom He sent, then today is your day. The appointed time of favor has come. You have favor in the Lord's eyes. Amen.